What up, though, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of the Don't Be Pressed podcast. Y'all know what it is. It's your girl, Morgan. As you can see, I am by myself this week. Devin was by herself last week because I was celebrating my birthday on the beach. But this week, I'm the one that's by myself. Devin's feeling a little under the weather. So I just wanted to get that out the way and don't expect to hear her voice this week. I'm so sad. I don't know how this episode is going to turn out without her, but I'm excited to see. So before we get started, I wanted to just talk some things over with you guys. I know that you've noticed that this is a longer season. Like, how do you guys feel about that? We thought we'd try something new. Let us know. Obviously, by the normal modes of communication, by email or DMing us on one of our many social media platforms. And make sure you catch up on all those episodes that we've been putting out. We've been putting out different kinds of content. Content about, reactions to shows, content obviously about real estate last week, dating advice and things like that. And we really enjoyed the interactiveness of this season and having you guys do write-ins and questions and just like putting out the What You Do on Wednesday. So we really like to know like how you feel about that because we really enjoyed it. And we'd like if you enjoyed it too. But in case, you haven't wrote in yet, we still have a few more episodes this season, so be sure to keep in touch with us with those What You Do on Wednesday questions, okay? Also, without further ado, always follow us on all social media platforms. If you are new, we are Don't Be Pressed on all platforms, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Pinterest, on TikTok. And we gear our content to the audience that platform, that platform accesses. So on TikTok, you may see a more fun version of us doing skits and stuff like that. On Instagram, we're putting information out there. On Pinterest, we're making boards for the subjects that we're talking about. On Twitter, we're expressing our thoughts in the moment. I like to do reactions to games and such. So that's going to bring us into our guest. Our guest doesn't really need an introduction, but I'll give it to him after the break. So stay tuned to see who that guest is. All right?
Okay, y'all. So we are huge supporters of other small businesses and podcasts. So today we like to share with you the Underground Queens podcast. Kiana and Kiara are two hardworking Southern belles trying to figure out self-care, motherhood, careers, and all things self-improvement. These down south queens dig deep into thought-provoking conversations, challenge their perspectives, laugh at their pain, affirm each other, and proudly standing in the fact that they don't know what the heck they are doing, but bet they'll figure it out. Morgan and I can definitely relate. Join the queens grinding it out from the underground together every other Wednesday on all podcast platforms. You can find them on Instagram at The Underground Queens, that's Queens with a Z and not an S, and also check out their website, www.theundergroundqueens.com. And if you'd like for us to feature your small business or podcast during one of our ad spots, head to our website to sign up now. The link will also be in the description below. Let's get back to the show.
All right, welcome back, guys. As you can see, I have my guest here with me, none other than No Stopping Kev himself from the No Stopping Kev podcast. Kev, how you feeling?
Feel good, man. You make me feel important, so I appreciate it.
You are important, man. Like you said, you are a brother podcast. So,
Okay.
I always love when we get a chance to sit down and talk hoops because most of the time we're like yelling over the phone. Like as Devin's like me and Devin are on the phone, it's just like all three of us trying to get a word in.
That's why when you're on the phone now, a lot of times I just go into a different room because I don't want to like.
You don't want me to be like, hey, Kev, what you think about this?
Yeah, I try to not do that just so everyone's happy, Y'all might be talking about podcast stuff, and then I come in talking about, LeBron, you being a Bron sexual or something, and then next thing you know, like y'all 2 hours behind on schedule. So, I try to avoid that now.
I appreciate that. As we get older, we're shorter on time. So, I appreciate that. So we're going to talk hoops since we're here. I see you got that nice background. It's perfect for what we're about to get into.
Oh, thank you.
That's pretty. I might have to get some of them. But this is the question that we asked our listeners this week. How do you feel about our generation of NBA athletes. So the guys who grew up watching like obviously the '03 draft class, AI, and that type of era. How do you feel like about them becoming TV analysts? So now we got JJ Reddick as an analyst, Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson have their own podcasts. Even Draymond to an extent. How do you feel about that?
I love it. I think that like I've grown to love the TNT crew, right? Kenny, Shaq, Chuck, and then as well as having Reggie's perspective on there, and then you switch over to ESPN and you have guys like Mark Jackson, who's very respected by players and coaches alike, just in the basketball world. But we're finally getting to that phase where like we've seen the guys play that are talking about the game, so like.
Yeah.
Now, whereas like your dad or, Devin said, my dad, like they can like, yeah, this guy was like this back in the day. And you got to kind of piece together what they're saying versus the highlights, which you got to be careful of because you didn't really see their era or like know the full story. Now
Right.
we're like, I saw that dude's career kind of start to finish. So, whatever he says, you can kind of, you can take it a different way. It hits a little bit different knowing the guy. But I love, like JJ, I'm happy he's out there. He's one of my Duke guys. So, shout out to the Blue Devils. But yeah, I'm happy he's there because he's very insightful with what he says. Draymond, I think, is very insightful. A lot of people hate Draymond. I kind of love Draymond, even though sometimes I can't stand Draymond at the same time. Usually when I'm rooting against him, but I respect what he does and I respect his IQ on the floor because for a guy who has, I'm not going to say a limited skill set, but you know what I mean. Like if he don't any other team,
he can do a lot of things well.
Yeah, he can do a lot of things well, but at the same time, if he's not in the right system, he might have had a 3-year career.
Yeah, I don't know how he is if he's on Portland instead of Golden State. If he, I think that maybe they're a contender, but I don't think that they're a dynasty. Like the Warriors.
Yeah, I agree. Like, again, that's why I said if he's not on the Warriors, he might be a 3-4 year relevant guy. Yeah. Otherwise, he's like a Tristan Thompson,
Definitely. It like serviceable, but not like gonna make or break you. Whereas like with the Warriors, he puts out this mystique. I don't even want to say he has this mystique, but he puts out this mystique that like, they couldn't do this without me, which he is a big part of it. But like, come on, Dre. I love him. Right. I love him having his podcast because we always hear of guys having high IQs on the floor. But when they put it on a podcast, like when JJ Reddick talks on his podcast, I'm able to really put like words behind what I see them doing on the floor. And it makes me respect their game so much more. But there is the backlash, of, people feeling like maybe you're putting too much of like, maybe you're giving too much of the sauce away. Maybe you're bringing too much realism to this thing that is inherently supposed to be entertainment. And so that's why I asked you that question. Like, what do you say to that?
I think I think you can never give away too much, right? Because, my boy Coach Dev always said it best. He's like, I can tell you everything, you need to know about something. I don't mean you're gonna do it, right? Like it's a big difference between knowing how to do something and then actually doing it. Like those are two different universes. So I think it's great that they put that out there because, people like, I wish I had that as a tool growing up. Like, you look at, like for me, one of the biggest resources was like on YouTube, the Nike signature moves. Like that's what I used to study a little bit to learn how to do different things. But when you think about breaking down the game, like you really can understand basketball inside and out with all the resources that are available today, from podcasts to, different basketball breakdowns on YouTube. It's endless.
Yeah, I completely agree. I tell people all the time, the type of player that I would be now and now I see how people become armchair quarterbacks and stuff like that for their kids. Cause they like, bro, if I had what you have, our parents is probably thinking like, if they had the dribbling goggles, like where would they be? We just had to not look at or if they had the opportunity to work on their footwork. Like I remember when we first started working on footwork, I was like, what does this have to do with anything? Like, I didn't really understand, like, why am I going through this ladder? Like, I have no rhythm. I hated.
I hated ladders. Like I didn't touch a ladder until high school. And like I'll tell you I can't dance. Devin will try to tell you I'm all right. But like
Same.
I didn't have that like coordination. Some guys can go up to the ladder.
Right.
Like naturally. Meanwhile, my joint pop, pop, pop.
I'm thinking like a motherfucker.
Yeah, right. So like it's just nuts. And now you see kids that have like everything at home. Like I was telling Devin, I was like, yo, if our kid trying to hoop, no way in the world they gonna be ass. Like if you getting this home because we gonna have everything at the crib. Like you gonna have a court, you gonna have a ladder, you gonna have medicine balls.
You can get them the ball returner. Yeah. I had to go get my ball.
Yeah, I know. And you probably got a lot less shots up too.
Yeah, because I can go ahead and I can hit 50 shots in a row one spot. Then I go next spot, hit 50. When you working out without that thing, you like, okay, well, I went and got the ball from over here, so I might as well just go to the closest.
I just shoot where I rebound.
Exactly. Getting a lot of layups in, okay?
Yeah, or you out there with your homie and like, so, me and Earl would go to the courts a lot, right? And, I'm a little bit better shooter than Earl. So like, ideally I go first. If not, I'm getting a workout and rebounding for his ass because I got to keep running 3-point line because this man got these long misses. It's a long day in the summer.
Yeah, but it kind of makes you, and then I think that it puts a different importance on rebounding too. But we gotta keep moving. So
got you.
Going along with the TV analyst role, Pat Bev came on to ESPN. Yeah, man.
Wow.
I figured you want to talk about this because you haven't made an episode about it yet, but Pat Bev came onto ESPN after, the Suns lost in that game 7 by 40? they were down by as much as 40 at one point. Was he right or wrong to come on there, and was he right or wrong in his analysis?
This man is a troll. All right. I think we know for one, Pat Bev is a troll, little monster, right? So, it's funny because I've talked to a lot of people kind of about this offline. And yeah, for those wondering, podcast been on hold for a minute, but it's coming back. Maybe even next Sunday, right? This drops next Friday. Be on the lookout.
I'm on the lookout for that one, bro. Because I like how you relate what's going on in the culture to hoops. But go ahead.
Yeah. So with Pat Bev, right? You talking about his slander, Chris Paul mainly. Yes. All right. So Pat coming on there saying that Chris Paul is a cone, which is absurd, right? Because Chris Paul's a solid defender, right?
He's not like Luka out there. Like Luka's really a cone for real.
Yeah, and
James Harden was a cone.
And Luka is 6'7". Like this man is huge. CP shouldn't be able to guard him. Like if CP3 can guard him, that's a problem for Luka, right? It's like when I went to the Sixers game and Russ was guarding Ben Simmons, that should not happen. Like there's certain differences. You shouldn't be able to like lock a guy down.
Because he's probably what, 6 feet?
Huh?
6 feet, if that.
Oh yeah, he a little small dude. Like you put me and him in the room, people not gonna know who the NBA player. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, Pev was wrong. He's out there trying to get a reaction, stir the pot. Danny Green, I think, said it best. How many times has Luka cooked Pat Bev? Said he too small, like, showed him up.
He came up in the playoffs.
Yeah. And so, when I like a guy like Pat Bev on TV because it's entertaining, right? Sometimes it's insightful. But at the same time, I'm like, dog, I got it. It's one of those things where you know the story because you watch the player. So to take what they say kind of with a grain of salt. In his case, like, JJ Reddick.
Right.
Pat Bev gonna be trolling. So, one day when I'm sitting next to my kid, I'm like, don't listen to him all the way. All right, let me tell you the real story. Because his game kind of relates to how he is in the chair. On the court, he's trolling. He wants to think he's this big, great player. Like, he's like, why do Chris Paul not get the same slander that other people get?
Look, this is where I feel him at though. Paul George, when they lost in the bubble, they got so much slander. If Pat Bev had not came on there and said that about CP3, what would they have said about CP3?
They might. People, they've been saying he's been struggling. Like that's been it's been
they
for
slandered
years.
Paul George. He was pandemic P. He was they slandered that man. They didn't
catchy. I mean, think about how many years though they said CP3 would never be healthy enough to even make it to the finals, and you know he barely been limping his ass in there. You know these last couple of years.
Yeah,
but you know just in regards to
1 year. Let's make sure we get that.
Yeah, he only made it there 1 year, but I'm just mean like through the playoffs, like even they get to the conference finals, because you know for the last decade, you know that guy would get hurt first, second round. So you know anytime he makes it to the postseason, I'm just like he got there. But you know when you're looking at Bev, right? So they kind of asked him a question like, why do you hate CP so much? And then he went back to like a LeBron camp or something where he was cooking CP. And I've never seen Pat Bev's high school highlights, but I was talking to my boy Antoine, and he was like, yeah, if you watch his high school highlights, you'll see like his play style would have been something that would have been hard for Chris Paul to guard, period. Just because he's probably one of those small, you know, strong guards, not small, but strong guards. And he just used to have a crazy floater, right? So he'd get in the lane, floating up. So if you bigger, he just pitting it up. So if you small, like, it's going to be hard to contend. Like if I'm finishing over bigs crazy, if you my size, like you not stopping me, right? So that's probably how he was cooking CP in the workout. But here's the thing. CP cook niggas in the league. Like, let's keep it a beat.
He does.
CP is an NBA Hall of Famer. Pat Bev is not, right? So you might have cooked him. Like there's people I cooked.
But he didn't compare. When I was 10. That's what y'all missing.
They went D1.
He's not comparing himself to CP3. He's comparing CP to other great players and saying, why does he not get the same slander?
True, but he's still like, it's coming from a place of hatred. So I just got to put it out there where this place of hatred stems from. And I just feel like
somebody got to say it, whether it's a place of hatred.
Sure. I just feel like Pat Bev's one of them dudes, right? Like he's been in the NBA for I don't know how many years. He feels like, you know, no matter what his role is, right? You know, here's a comparison for you, right? He'll say he got the Timberwolves to the playoffs. Like, yeah, I got this young team to the playoffs. You know, when CP did it with OKC, everybody was talking about CP. Why nobody talk about me? CP was like first, second best player on that team. Pat Bev will forever be like the fourth, fifth tops on any roster he's on.
The roster was absolutely horrific in OKC. And, you know, he's to be commended for taking them to the playoffs, but not, I mean, you took the Rockets to 7 games with Russell Westbrook and James Harden and that small, I mean, okay. 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 That's just how I feel about it. Like, it's there. I'm not really like, I think CP is great. I just don't like him being in the echelon that they put him in. I think he's more 5 to 10 PGs, not 1 to 5.
All time?
Yes.
5 to 10. All right, so here's what I think, right? I think the point guard position has evolved immensely. Even if you just think back to like the 80s and 90s, right? Like the role of the point guard has changed immensely. To whereas, you know, you got to pit guys like Magic, CP, or, you know, give me any other old guy that was solid, John Stockton, in categories with guys Isaiah, guys that are Detroit, guys that are like straight offensive juggernauts like Steph Curry, even Dame, right? Like you got your floor general point guards, then you got your straight bucket getting point guards. So, you know, when I'm looking at point guards, like greatest point guards of all time, it's kind of difficult for me to stack them at times because it's like, am I looking at this through the floor general lens or am I looking at just like
a score first
player? Yeah, so it's kind of hard for me. So like,
I feel you.
If I'm looking at, if you telling me top floor generals of all time, CP3 got to be like top 3. Like he gotta be when you're talking about floor generals. But if you're looking at just straight like guys that have played the point guard position, then we have a conversation about where is he in that top 10? Is he in the back? Is he in the bottom 5 or the top 5 when you're talking about 1 through 10 on the point guard list?
Yeah, he might even trickle down because now I'm thinking about guys like George Gervin and that type. So he might trickle down even further than that. You can't. So look. This brings us into our conversation of JJ Reddick says he refers to 1950 NBA players as plumbers and firemen. Because I saw how you looked when I said George Gervin. So I'm gonna just use that as a segue. People were very upset, obviously, saying that, they didn't play anybody. Like, they just dribbling the ball at their head up here.
Yeah.
So what you think? You think he's right or wrong? Can you see where he's coming from? Because I can see where he's coming from. He mentioned some people like Oscar Robertson. He mentioned, Jerry West and Elgin Baylor. And, I think that you have those maybe 3 or 4 guys, but for the most part, you're not going to have a Pat Bev as your nemesis. Like the people that you're going against, you see what I'm saying? Like Chris Paul is going against a Pat Bev type of defender. I don't believe that Oscar Robertson had that type of, like, there's a Pat Bev out there.
See, it's tough. And this goes back to, being babies in the basketball, like, span of time, right? Just not knowing, who was out there, how they played. But I can say this. I can say the period we live in today or are watching, it might be shifting a little bit as we speak. But let's just say the last decade has been probably the point guard decade, where we've seen the greatest collection of point guards in the league at one time. Westbrook, Kyrie, Steph, CP, Dame. Shoot, I know I'm missing a ton of them, but like even those second tier guys, there's someone at the point guard position every night, right? So, when you're thinking about JJ's comments, like, they're playing against plumbers and firemen. That might have been like 50s, 60s era, but like I think the talent in the league is greater today than it was in the past, just because over time players get better and better. You didn't see 7-foot guys like KD, right? Back in
you're not gonna have that.
Yeah, like
you're
they can
have a Jokic.
Yeah, like they compare KD to George Gervin, right? George Gervin's like a 6'7" dude, but like 6'7" compared to 7 foot, that's a huge difference. And like you think about the guard skill of somebody like that, like these were things you weren't seeing back then, right? So I'll die on a hill. Guys today will ball circles around guys back then just because the skill sets have evolved, right? Guys are bigger, stronger. I guess you can argue stronger, but overall more athletic. Gilbert Arenas says it best when guys talk about stopping LeBron back in like the 80s and 90s. Like LeBron is bigger than a lot of them dudes. Like their centers were small. Like they had like skinny 7-footers, but like Rodman and all them guys like that. Like LeBron is bigger than those dudes.
Yeah, he's going through you. So you better have some type of strength that you were born with completely. Like you can't, to me, it just doesn't make sense. And I put this on my story. It doesn't make sense to me that everything in the world evolves and gets better with time. And we're going to have a conversation about basketball and not doing the same thing. Like that never makes any sense to me. And that's where I always land on it, because if I got to watch you and everything you did well and everything you didn't do well, and then I got to make it my own, add in some new technology for medicine, add in new technology for strength and training and all of those things, the time and the dedication that I have, AAU, that I'm playing way more than you was just playing at the park. And it was, so I think that, I think that you're in a situation where they have to be more skilled. They're clearly faster. You can see that. Like they're clearly faster, jumping out the gym, more athletic. They're doing moves that Luka did something I ain't never seen before. That spin that he had to the 3.
Oh yeah.
Who's done it?
See, if I say this,
you're
gonna look at me like I'm crazy.
Go ahead.
But I've done spins in the step backs in the 3s. Like that's not. I haven't seen it done in the NBA like that. But like, I mean, he's not the first. He's not the first. Like,
okay, so look, I got another question for you. One that's gonna hit home. Philly winning a ring. Give me a timetable. What do you think in the next 2 years, next 5 years, and what do they need to do realistically?
We were supposed to win a ring that year Kawhi hit that shot. That's when we were supposed to win it. But I'll say this. I think we have Embiid under contract through 2027. I want to say. Might be some options in there. But I just remember one day looking like, yo, when does his contract expire? Because once that expires, I don't know what's about to happen. I hope we can keep this guy until he retires. But I don't know. Because, he still might be hurt about how we let Jimmy go and chose Tobias Harris over him. But I think what needs to happen right now, right? I think you look at this past season, having James Harden come in here, not having as much depth, it was going to be hard to win a championship, right? Like, we were clearly missing some pieces. I'm watching games like, damn, they might as well let me play. If Thibault not gonna hit a shot, like I give you a bucket. Like if I'm had that much space, I'm gonna get one to go.
Well,
like goddamn,
he's not 3-and-D. He's just D.
Yeah, he barely D now. Like he be all over the place. I'm like, bro, you are too gifted athletically to be gambling and out of position, putting pressure on us just because you want to gamble and be super aggressive. Like just keep your dude in front of you sometimes. Sometimes that's the best defense. Yeah, keep him in front of you.
A lot of these young guys don't know the difference between the playoffs and the regular season. Yeah, and it shows in instances like that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I think what we're missing, right? So I think Harden's gonna be better next year. A lot of people forget Harden had hamstring surgery in the offseason, so he didn't have the same offseason he would typically have. Some people will say KD was trying to tell him to stop running around in Europe with little baby and get his behind back in the gym. I don't know, right? I don't know how healthy he was. All I got to say is going forward, what we can do. So I think he's going to be better next season. He'll be healthier. He'll be more like the James Harden we're accustomed to seeing, right? I think Embiid is going to continue to be dominant. Who called me from an 800 number? Sorry. I hope that you can hear that on your end. I think Embiid's going to continue to be dominant. I think he'll win the MVP next year. Similar to how like Ja Morant won most improved player this year when he probably should have won it last year. I think we're going to see that with Embiid. It's going to be a little delayed. We got a little timing difference.
I see similarities between James Harden's MVP and the Steph Curry and Russell Westbrook and how they gave it to him the year he didn't deserve it and they gave it to somebody else the year he did deserve it.
I'm going to just say Russ got it when he was supposed to get it, but that's another thing. But in terms of what the Sixers are missing, right, we need shooters. So, Miami had Duncan Robinson on their bench, not playing them. Duncan, come on over. We'll play you, right? Play defense a little bit. But if you're going to hit some threes, that's going to be better for us. So I think we got to bring in some shooters. I think if we bring in guys that can consistently hit from downtown, the game is so much different. So, like, a lot of people were James Harden has lost his step. He's not the James Harden that he was. He's not the same guy. He's done. He's cooked, right? That was all you were hearing, especially on Philly sports radio, right? But what a lot of people didn't look at is like, all right, why is he playing this way, right? So sure, health could be a part of it, right? But then I started looking at the game, right? I'm like, well, what would I do if I was a defense? I'm like, Philly don't got nobody that's going to shoot three, like knock down threes, so I'm not going to worry about guarding the three-point line. What I'm going to do? I'm sitting right in help. So we got a guy up on James in his face, like, yo, don't let him get to that step back. Just play super help. Because if he gets by you, Bam at the elbow, Jimmy at the other elbow, like you playing 1-on-3, so when he goes to drive, there's no space. So I pulled up like clips from when he was in Houston, right? You weren't leaving PJ Tucker, Eric Gordon, Daniel House, Trevor Reese. Like you had to stay home on those guys, or else it was a quick swing. They letting it fly and they knocking it down.
Yeah.
So now, because the floor wasn't as spaced here in Philly, he couldn't get to the rim with as much ease. He's going one-on. He got at least two defenders around him at all times. It's not a one-on-one drive opportunity or one where the help is coming from a further distance away where, now that person's going to be too late even if they get there. So it's a much different thing. So I'm like, I don't think he's cooked. Sure, he could have not been 100% healthy this season, but I think if we put some shooters around him, y'all going to see the James Harden that we're accustomed to seeing. And he's not going to score 30 every night when you got Embiid scoring 30 every night.
Yeah, you don't need him to score 30. You just need him I need that tween step back to be effective.
Yeah, I just need you to hit like 4 or 5 threes a game. that might be stretching it. Just put up 3 to 5 threes a game, somewhere in that range. Get around 20 points, double-figure assists, and we should win.
I think the foul rules are impacting him as well, but we got to keep going. So, favorite player of all time?
My God, Allen Iverson.
I knew that. Yeah. Favorite player right now?
Like right,
they got to be 28 and younger.
28 and younger?
Yep.
All right, so that X's my man Russ out. I have to say Ja Morant because he's like Westbrook 2.0. He's a Westbrook with a jumper.
Definitely. I think that he can win a ring. I think that they can win a ring. I want them to keep that together. I don't want them to take nobody off that team. Memphis, keep it together. You got something that could be very, very special. I love them, man. Like, I feel like Brooks, his defense, I feel like Bane is the stereotypical 3D guy. You know, I just feel like they got a great team. I love Jaren Jackson. I love Tillman. I even love Adams, you know, for them. So I think that they have a great team. I just think they need a little bit more experience. I never picked them to beat the Warriors, but I think that if you're looking on who's coming up, they got to be it in the West. I want to see Denver come back together. I don't think Jamal Murray is going to be the same. So I don't think I'm going to get to see my iteration of Kobe and Shaq for this generation, but I'm excited for where it's going. What about, you're big into the WNBA?
Yeah. Just real quick on that Kobe and Shaq, you gonna have Embiid and Embiid and Harden next season.
That ain't gonna be that. That ain't gonna be that. It's too steep in the East. Jason Tatum is really trying to make. If they win this year.
I've said like 3 years ago, I used to tell Devin all the time, like Jason Tatum's gonna be, you know, MVP candidate, probably a champion in his league. He'll be the face of the league at one day, and that day might be here pretty soon. But I'll let you continue, sorry.
Because he's literally gone through, once he goes through Miami and then he goes through Golden State or Luka, I'm pretty sure it'll be Golden State. But if he goes through, you can't, like, what can you say? Like, what do you mean? I think that he's a little bit inconsistent.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, he's special. So the direction of WNBA. We see, last night I was watching and I was so proud because they put the WNBA game right next to the TV schedule of the NBA games coming up. And the women in WNBA have been talking about how so much more attention could be brought to the sport if they just spent more money on marketing. What do you feel about where the WNBA is now and them thinking in the future, expanding teams and, you know, just getting this exposure?
I'm super excited about the expanding teams because I'm like, Philly has to get one. Like, I need to hit the lotto. Something gotta work for me because I'm trying to get in on that ownership, baby. Like, that needs to be me. But I think it's great. I think the WNBA has so much talent, so much so that there's not enough roster spots where you see, you know, people in their second, third years get cut from teams simply because teams are like, all right, I'll pay this younger player, like, whatever the contract is, you know, it's a lesser contract.
It's a money decision.
Yeah. And, you know, there's just so much talent that the league could be better with expansion. I do think that more could be done to pit the WNBA more in your face, you know, especially when you have the NBA as a platform to elevate. And I also think that a lot of it is kind of generational. So I think inherently in our society, a lot of people think as women's sports is being less than men's sports, which is ludicrous to me, right? So it's like, you know, like my kids will grow up watching both. Like, all right, you want a hoop, son? We're going to watch this girls game. Then we're going to watch the guys. Like, I'm going to expose you to know, like, yo, they're equal, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I talk to a lot of people and I'm like, I'm not watching women's basketball. Like, it's not entertaining. They can't dunk. And I'm like, nigga, you can't dunk. So what's up? Your game closer than it is Kyrie.
Low key, so most people's game is closer to the women's basketball. You're right. What do you think that it is that for the male viewer? Obviously, you're not this male viewer, but I'm sure you know men who feel this way. What do you think that it is that makes men not really want to watch pro sports? Because we hear Gilbert Arenas say that they're not cute enough because they're dressing like men. And, you know, I think Devin actually told me Draymond said he would never let his daughter play basketball because of, like, I guess how manly they are and have to be. So do you Do you think that that's a thing for men? Do you think that y'all have to be attracted to women that you see playing a sport?
I think some do. But like, you know, you got to ask yourself, why are you watching basketball to begin with? Like, are you attracted to KD too? Why is it different? Like, what are you watching basketball for then? For me, I'm watching because I want to see the game, and I actually like watching the WNBA more than the NBA. NBA gets a little too ISO-y. I want to see pin downs on the weak side, curl, like I want to see give me all that, right?
Yeah.
Because now, next thing you know, I'm teaching players to my players. I'm like, yo, we calling this Chicago or we calling this Sky. Like,
right.
You can being able to take from there. But yeah, I don't know why like some guys feel like there has to be something like, you know, other than basketball that make them watch women's basketball, whether it's attraction or I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
I was
They're watching for the wrong reasons. It's basketball.
I've been wondering that for a long time. It just seems, rather strange to me. I don't know. We can move on. So Stephen A. Smith has been on the record numerous times, damn near every day when I listen to First Take, talking about Ben Simmons, Kyrie, and James Harden and how their contracts are bad for the NBA and NBA players. As a person who thinks about things from a business standpoint, I agree that it's not going to end well because you just can't, I can't take off my job and, expect there to be no repercussions. James Harden asking out of 2 places 2 years in a row while he's still under contract. Even to me, the Paul George thing, obviously he's under contract. Kawhi gets him to come to the Clippers while he's under contract. So do you think this is going to be bad for the NBA? I personally do. I think that they're going to have maybe not non-guaranteed money. I think that the people at the bottom are going to suffer a lot more than these guys who are making 200 plus million. And I think that it's going to affect the how much money they pay them to play basketball, considering how much money they can make outside of basketball. Crypto. NBA is very big into crypto, so now everybody got a crypto thing. The food, the clothes, so what are your thoughts? I just shared mine.
Yeah, I think it will have an effect. It'll be interesting to see what happens at the next CBA, just because like the owners are gonna want they're gonna fight back. Like they're fed up. Like it's a shame that, Kyrie was just sitting out, even pre-COVID stuff, like when he was like, I don't feel like playing. like that's wild, right? So I think that something will happen. But yeah, I think you raise a great point when you're like, the people at the bottom may suffer because someone's always gonna be like, sure, I'm gonna take a chance on Kyrie to come here. You do whatever he wants. If he plays, sweet. If he doesn't, our team was trash to begin with.
Bro, because if it's in the rules, even the lower man is gonna be like, yeah, if Kyrie can take off because he's stressed out about the U.S. riots at the Capitol, why can't I? Mm-hmm. If Kyrie can do this, why can't I? Is it because he certain rights you can't say just because a man makes more, that means that he can take off more often. And then there's a thing to be said about the Nike contract. Them, discontinuing their Nike contract with him.
I was surprised at that.
It has to come into play that you're not on the court in our shoes. And I wasn't surprised because he said for this year's shoes that he didn't approve of them. Yeah. And they didn't consult him. So that's what didn't surprise me.
He's kind of had one of the best peers. Like he's had the best Nike shoe.
He has.
For a few years now. I was balling Kyrie's for several years and I switched to bronze this year.
Really? The shits that he had this year they look like some
they were terrible. They were
awful. Okay, last question for you before we get out of here. Time expires. Eastern Conference Finals. Who you got? Miami or Boston?
This is tough. Initially I had Miami, but I want to say Miami only because I think they know how to win. I think you look at that Memphis team going against Golden State, you got to know how to win in this league. And I think Miami's just closer to that than Boston is. Even though I would want Boston to win, I think it'll be Miami in the end.
Okay, I'm going Boston just because I think that they have more talent ultimately, and they like to play with their food, which is not good, but they're good enough to make up for it. Western Conference, Golden State or Dallas?
I want it to be Dallas. But I think it'll be Golden State because Brunson and and Luka can't have 20 points each in the first half and come out and have like 4 by the start of the fourth. You know, I think you got to blow Golden State out just because they're so damn explosive. So I'm going Golden State there.
Okay, so you have Golden State versus Miami in the finals. Who is your
Golden State? Golden State.
It's so weird because I hated them, and now I'm like, it's their world. We're just living.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for coming on the Don't Be Pressed podcast. It was fun as always. Don't forget to check out his show, No Stopping Kev show. I love the podcast. If you like to talk basketball, if you like this episode, check it out. No Stopping Kev show on all platforms. Don't Be Pressed podcast on all platforms. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Nevertheless,
don't be pressed.
There you go. All right.